Hey, this is Rob with Synapse, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to commission our latest combination sensor controllers in SimplySnap. I've got a small demo board here set up with 5 sensors total, 4 SNV-CS-10 combo sensors on the top row, and then 1 CSEN1 there on the bottom left. Each sensor is driving a small LED light, so you can easily see what's happening as we bring those devices online and configure the control. I've also included a 2-button wireless switch there that we'll reference later in the video. I'll be recording my screen so you can follow along directly in the SimplySnap user interface while the camera stays on the demo board, and you'll see how everything interacts, the user interface and the real hardware. I'll hide the video when it's not necessary, but the video will pop up so you can see exactly what's going on with the lights whenever we're doing control. The demo does assume you've already logged into a SimplySnap gateway. If that is a new process for you, there's a link in the description below that will link to a video showing you exactly how to log into SimplySnap for the first time. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing we want to do is make sure that the gateway is running at least SimplySnap version 16.01. To check that, you can go to the menu here in the upper left, go to Config, Config Management, and then System. And here you'll see the version that I'm running is 16.01. If you're running a version older than 16.01, there'll be a link below. You can go grab the latest version of SimplySnap from our website and upgrade your gateway. Once we've confirmed the gateway is running the correct version, then we're going to go back to the menu, go to Devices, Census, and then click Start Census. Confirm. And what this is going to do is the gateway is now going to broadcast out and ask all devices on the default network to report back. And those 5 devices that are currently the 5 light controls that are on the board and the wireless switch will all respond. And you'll see as the devices are being discovered, I'm getting a count here at the top. And I'm expecting there to be 6 total devices. And when the census is completed, you'll see a list here of all the discovered devices. Now I can, from right here, you'll notice they all have unique 6-character MAC addresses. These MAC addresses match the sticker that's on the controller. I can also blink the light if I'm not sure which controller is connected up to which MAC address. So there you can see the light there on the left blinking. So that's a nice benefit, but definitely a good idea to go ahead and keep track of your MAC addresses if you're doing an install out in the field. So I'm going to go ahead and add these 6 devices in. And right now the gateway is pushing the latest version of SimplySnap to those controllers. You see here at the bottom, while the controllers are being upgraded, you'll see that toast message on the bottom. Once everything's finished, then that will disappear. And now we know that those controllers are running the same version of SimplySnap that the gateway is running. So what we're going to do now is go to the Lights and Sensors page. And here is a list of all the zones. Now there's only one zone by default in the gateway, and that's the default zone. And from here, without really doing anything else, I can go ahead and start to control my lights. So I can turn the lights off. I can turn the lights on. I can click on the dimmer slider. This will change all of the lights in that zone to the dimming value you see here. I could also go down to the bottom and individually control those lights. Okay, so that's a kind of basic control. And if all you're interested in doing is testing the controllers to make sure they're compatible with a fixture, this is really all you need to do. Turn the lights on, off, and then do a dim test. And as long as the lights are responding and the drivers dim the lights, you know everything's connected up and wired up properly. But we're going to go ahead and continue and do some more configuration to set this gateway up more like a real customer scenario. And we're going to set up those top 4 SNV sensors and put them into an interior zone. And then we'll put the CSEN1 into an exterior zone. So here on the upper right on the Devices and Zones page, I clicked Add Zone. And then I'm going to name the interior zone Interior Lights. And then I'm going to add another zone for the exterior lights. Okay. Now there are no lights in these zones, so even if I'm trying to control, nothing is changing with the lights on the board. But as soon as we put lights in the zone, then they'll start responding. So I'm going to start with the exterior lights. Go to the bottom right here, the 3 dots, the vertical ellipsis. Click on that. Go to Manage Lights, and then I'm going to put in the CSEN1 into that zone. And then you saw the toast message pop up doing a little configuration. And then here are the interior light zone. I'm going to go to Manage Lights and then put the the SNV-CS-10s into that zone. So now if I try to control the interior lights and turn them off, you'll notice they shut off, but the combo sensor there on the bottom stayed on. Turn the interior lights back on. Go to 50%. Go back to on. And then the exterior zone, when I turn those off, that will only control the CSEN1 there on the bottom left. Okay, so now we have our zone set up, and we can set up, well, you'll notice whenever I'm doing this on-off button or I'm dragging the slider, it's changing the behavior of that zone. So it's telling the lights in that zone to go whatever the behavior is here in that zone. So off behavior, there's your on behavior. Here's a dimmer behavior of 52%. So what we're going to do is go set up scenes, which will apply those zone behaviors to the zone. So we'll just set up a couple of sample scenes here. We'll do interior on. So that will turn the interior lights. I'm going to set a behavior of on. Set the control zone for interior. Done. Save scene. And then I'm going to do another one. I'm just going to duplicate that one over here on the right. Click on the three dots. Click duplicate. And then I'm going to go edit. And we'll change this one to off. Then change the behavior to off. Done. Save scene. Okay, so now these are very basic, just on off. So now from here, if I click apply interior off, you'll notice those lights in the interior zone turned off. If I click apply, the lights turned on. Now we can take those scenes and put them on switch buttons. So we have the wireless switch here under menu, wireless switches. There's that 2-button switch that was discovered. We're going to click edit switch. And then down here we can assign scenes. So we're going to do the on scene for button 1. And we'll do the off scene for button 2. So a very easy way to set up control, physical control with scenes. So now we will go monitor the interior light zone. I'm going to walk over here and hit the on and off button. You can see the lights responding. Okay, so just like that, we've brought light controllers into the system. We've separated them into zones, and then we've set up a few scenes. So this is where a lot of people can be finished if you're just looking for basic light control with physical push button stations. We can also schedule those scenes to run at specific times. But before we get to that, I actually want to add a motion sensor in. So the beauty of these combo sensors is they have, not only do they have light control, they also have sensors built in. So we're going to set up an occupancy sensor to control the lights in this zone. So I'm going to pick, all the sensors are right next to each other. So rather than configuring all of them, I'm just going to pick one. So we're going to grab this sensor here. I'm going to copy the MAC address, and then up here in the top of the lights and sensors page, there's this add sensor menu. So here we will do sensor, I'll name it the sensor MAC address. Actually, let me get a little more specific. We're going to say this is a motion sensor, okay? And then we're going to assign the control of that motion sensor to the interior light zone. So this is logical control. You could have this sensor control a different group of lights if you want. So it doesn't really matter where this sensor is wired, which light it's wired to. It's going to send a command on the network to control lights. So that's the beauty of network lighting controls. So we've got this sensor here. We're going to use the built-in motion. And I'm going to turn the sensitivity down a bit here for testing down to 128. So 255 is full sensitivity. I'm going to cut that in half and add the sensor. So here you can see there, right now that sensor is detecting no motion for that zone. So now what we can do is go set up a scene to control this zone of lights with a motion sensor. So if we go back to the scenes menu, I've got the interior off and interior on. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate one of the interior scenes, and we will call this one interior occupancy. In this case, we're going to change or select a behavior of occupancy only, and then we will set up a few parameters here. So 100% on occupancy, and then we'll say after 1 minute, we're going to just go ahead for testing purposes, just turn those lights off. But if you wanted to have 2 different step dimmings, you could wait 30 minutes and dim to 50%, and then 5 minutes later turn the lights off if you want. So lots of flexible options here. But we're going to control that interior zone. So there we have that set up now. So if I apply that scene, you can see the lights just turned off. And over here, the reason they turned off is because that sensor is not detecting motion. And then we just set that behavior up and told it, turn the lights off on no motion. So I'm going to walk over here to the board, and what you're going to notice is this sensor will detect occupancy and then turn the lights in that zone on. Okay, so I got about halfway to the board, and you can see that sensor detected motion, and these lights will then stay at 100% until after a minute of vacancy, and then dim or shut the lights will shut off based on the behavior we just set up. So now what we can do is we've got the different scenes set up for the interior. We can go ahead and schedule those. So if we go to menu, we can go to the schedule scene. And so we'll start with, let's say we want the interior lights to turn on. We'll just say this is the warehouse morning schedule. We're going to run that every morning at 6 a.m. Okay. We'll start tomorrow, 7 days a week. Okay. So looking at the schedule for tomorrow, there you can see I've got that event every day. If we go look ahead into January, I've got one event every day set up. Okay. So now what we want to do is after 6, so the shift is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We want to schedule another scene to switch to occupancy. And so overnight. So this warehouse will shut the lights off if no one's around, but if a security guard walks through, and those zones will turn on and stay on for a minute, which is what we have set up at the moment. So we'll do 6 p.m. Recurs 7 days a week. Schedule scene. Okay, so just like that, we've got our morning and evening, so lights will come on, stay on 100%, and then at 6 p.m. the occupancy scene will start. Now that 2-button switch button is still set up with the on button and the off button. So that could be set up in the warehouse. Someone could walk up, hit the button, and that'll act as an override until the next schedule event runs in the system. And you can actually set a timer on that if you want with the switch buttons to have that scene run for a certain period of time before another scene is applied. Now we've set up the warehouse, and then what we want to do is, you notice the lights just turned off because the occupancy sensor went vacant again. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those lights back on. The next thing we want to do is set up the exterior scene. So we're going to go set up a scene for exterior on. All right, so we'll set the behavior to on, select the exterior zone, click done, and save scene. And then we're going to do another one for off. So we'll duplicate that scene, and we'll go to exterior off. Okay, and then we're going to do one more scene for the overnight, and we're going to have this one dim the lights to 30%. So this will be something we're going to set up to run overnight. No one's around. We don't need to run those high wattage exterior lights at 100% all night long. Okay, so now I've got 6 scenes set up, and if you click on the zone or the scene tile, it will tell you which zones are affected by that scene and then what the behaviors are. So I've got my exterior there, 30%, off, and then on, and then there's the other interior ones we already set up. Okay, so now we're going to go to the schedule and then set up, we're going to use the astronomical clock to set up our exterior scene. So we want the lights to turn off at sunrise, and we can select our solar time. Here you can do any of these offsets, dawn, sunrise, sunset, or dusk. So in this case, we're going to do at sunrise, and we can do an offset. So let's say 5 minutes before sunrise, I want the exterior lights 7 days a week to turn off. Okay, so when I look at tomorrow's schedule, there we go. You can see that the warehouse lights will turn on before sunrise. So they'll be on together for about 49 minutes until the exterior is shut off. And then we're going to go ahead and do the exterior on. Solar time at sunset, we'll do 10 minutes before sunset on this one, 7 days a week. Oh, forgot to name it. Okay. And then we're going to do an overnight dimming 30%. And we're going to run that specifically, we'll say at 11 o'clock. We don't expect anyone to be in the parking lot. Now I could set up the motion sensor to control the lights. I can also set up the photocell for if clouds or storms roll through in the middle of the day. I'm not going to set that up in this video, but that is something you could absolutely do with that sensor. So there's our 7 days a week. All right, so here's a typical day in the life of this warehouse. We've got the 6 a.m., turn the interior lights on. The exterior shuts off 5 minutes before sunrise. 10 minutes before sunset, the exterior turns on. And then the interior switches to occupancy sensors at 6 o'clock when the people are leaving the facility. And then at 11 o'clock, 30%, those lights, the exterior lights will dim down. Now, one important thing I wanted to notice, you may have noticed the orange bar across the top. Brand new out of the box, controllers and gateways, they're all communicating on the default Snap network. And it's really important during commissioning, as soon as you've added everything into the system and you're done, to get off of the default. So we actually have a built-in mechanism that will prevent light control after 24 hours after the last config change was made to the lights. So to get off of the default network, you can go up here to the upper left on the menu, go to config, go to snap config, and here you can see these are the default settings. So what I'm going to do is turn on encryption, and I'm just going to change my net ID. This is a 4-character hex value to something other than default. Click Save Changes, Update. And so what that's going to do now is the gateway is going to go out and tell those 4 SNV-CS-10s and the 1 CSEN1 and the 1 wireless switch to move off of the default and go to the new network ID with encryption on. And so once that's done, everything will restart, and then that orange bar at the top will disappear. And if you were having issues with light control, again, after that 24-hour period, you won't have to worry about that anymore going forward once you're off the default. So that's everything we got planned for today. I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Again, remember, I've got a bunch of resources down there in the description that will hopefully be helpful to everyone.